Well, this is an exciting night. We're having a great evening in Forsyth County. We've gotten to, several of us have gotten to meet the Speaker of the House today, and now we get to meet some candidates for the Republican nomination for State School Superintendent. We appreciate you coming here to supplement our local school board debates, which we will get to after you gentlemen present. First tonight, I would like to introduce Mr. Richard Woods. He is coming from South Georgia, and he's a candidate for the GOP Republican nomination. He's going to speak to us on his platform. Mr. Woods, welcome.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Again, my name is Richard Woods. I reside in the town of Tifton, Georgia, between Macon and Valdosta. Work in the Irwin County school system, been there for 22 years. But again, tonight I'm running, more importantly, we're standing before you as a Republican candidate for the office of State School Superintendent. When briefly said, who is Richard Woods, proudly, without reservation or hesitation, let individuals know that I'm a Christian, conservative, constitutionalist. I'm not a politician, but I am an educator who has 22 years of experience in Georgia's public education system. For the past 22 years, I have worked in the Irwin County school system. During that time, for 14 years, I was able to serve that community as a social studies teacher within the local high school, working in various forms of capacities there, sometimes as a coach, department chair, but definitely something with a passion that I always loved in the classroom. Has definitely been the heart and joy of myself as an individual and as a teacher. For the past 8 years, I've worked and served Irwin County as an administrator. 7 of those years I worked at the Irwin County Elementary School, 3 years as an assistant principal, 1 year as a K-2 principal, and for 3 years as the on-site K-5 curriculum director. And for this past school year, I worked at the Irwin County Education Center over the Irwin County Pre-K, Alternative School, Hospital Homebound, and Homeschool programs. And that being said, what I bring to the plate and what I bring to this race is that I'm the only candidate, and really, as far as I know, the first one who is running as an individual who has experience from pre-K through 12th grade at the site level as either a teacher or an administrator. And that gives me a unique perspective because all the mandates that have come down and policies and decisions that have come down from Washington, D.C., Atlanta, and the local school system, I've had the privilege of working with teachers and educators, to administer those. I've seen what the policies do. I've seen how they affect education, and whether it's good or bad. And so, I'm here running on that platform because of the things I've seen, the things I've experienced. And the platform basically is very simple. I usually kind of tell people it's what I call an educational CPR, where I look at common sense, protection, and relationship building. With common sense, we're looking really just to do what we know works in education. We know so much what works in education, but for some reason we tend to ignore that to a large degree from time to time. And those, what I do propose is that we have a curriculum that's appropriate and attainable for all levels of learners. I'd like to have a curriculum that we will mandate that our students will have a mastery of reading, writing, and math in the K-5 area. This is the foundational area for all of our students. It builds so much upon everything else from middle school, high school, and beyond. And so that is something that's dear to my heart, especially having that elementary school background. I've seen what needs to take place there, because on the flip side, as a teacher, I saw what came down the pipe. And as I looked, I always wondered, why did students perhaps not know this or do that? Well, once I got down to that level, I saw why. And I saw some of the hamstrings that were placed upon our teachers in our education system there. Also what I would like to have is a renewal of a dual diploma selection. Right now we've gone to the one system model. I do not like that. I think it puts everybody, trying to put everybody in the box, which again comes down from more of the mandates and the mindset of Washington, D.C. But I do value a technical college approach. I think technical college is something that is very important to our kids. It offers a lot to individuals. I, as an individual, when I first graduated high school, went to technical college. So I know the value there on a personal basis. What I would like to see is a greater partnership with our technical colleges, but also not to ignore our university systems. Again, as a graduate of the university system, because why not have a math science, a liberal arts diploma? Because as I found out, even as an adult, we're going to gravitate towards our strengths. And, and if you try to put a student in a failing situation, they're going to rebel, they're not going to learn, and they're going to tune you off. And so that's why, I'm looking to run is to expand that on a personal basis. Also what I do understand is that we need to have a strong personal finance course within our system. One that teaches about capitalism, the free market society, that teaches our students how to invest, to become active members within our economic system. Because when they graduate, what I want them to do is I want them to be help-outs and not handouts. They must learn to run away and to avoid the debt society and the mentality that has been allowed to grow and permeate within our society at large. And so I think we can do a better job with them, in that area. Also as a former history teacher, one of the things I do value is American history. I think we do a disservice to our teaching our history. One of the things I would love to see is make sure that we teach the truth about our heritage and history. Teach our students how to become active and good, well-informed participants in our political system. A few weeks ago, my wife and I were out and about, and we stopped at a Burger King, and across the counter was a young man, and he was looking at my name badge, and when he was probably 16, 17, and he looked at me and said, "Well, what's a Republican?" I really didn't know what to say at that point, because that's basic civics. And then he said, "Well, I think I know, pretty sure who our president is, but what's he?" I'm thinking that, we have allowed ignorance to graduate or move through our school system. And, we cannot afford to do that. Because, by allowing ignorance to graduate, that's why we have what we have up in Washington, D.C., the leadership that is up there. Because people have not been informed. People have not learned to question, to dig down, and, to participate in our society. And so those are, some key components of what I hope to stress, from an academic standpoint. Secondly, we looked at, protection. Protection, what I do understand is that, according to our United States Constitution in the 10th Amendment, which basically says any powers not specifically given or directed to the federal government are retained by the states and the people. But what you will find out is that education is not mentioned anywhere in the United States Constitution. Thus, by default, that means that education is the sole responsibility of each and every state. And if we go back to our 1868 Constitution of Georgia, that's where we made our first public declaration that we were going to support public education. And because of that, we worked along and moved along fine for many years. Unfortunately, during the Carter administration, what we had was the creation of the Federal Department of Education. And I submit to you, what have we gotten from the Department of Education since the late 70s? We have things such as the No Child Left Behind legislation, which is greatly crippling our school system. We have something also known as the Race to the Top initiative that we have, which is more bureaucracy piled on top of a state already burdened. It's the creation of new offices within that according to the Race to the Top application, which Georgia has submitted. And it also will eventually leave Georgia with a bill if we look at the merit pay component of the Race to the Top initiative. That means that after 4 years, Georgia is going to have to be left with that. And I submit to you that from an economic standpoint, we cannot, offer what we as a state have offered. And so we have to learn to say no to the federal government. We have to learn to stand up. At some point in time, we have to draw that line. Roughly about 7% of our budget is allocated or comes from the state. But what I do propose is that we specifically look at the No Child Left Behind legislation and begin to target and whittle away with that. Because we have to be able to dictate what goes on within our state. Because this is directly tied into the last part, we're looking at relationship building. Because with relationship building, I come to you and submit to you that I will be a communicator, not a dictator. I'm here to work with all parties, across the board. I'm here specifically to work with you as a local school system. Because what I understand is that you know your children far better than I would on an individual basis up in the Atlanta area. And I definitely know that you know your children far better than some bureaucrat that's up in an administrative office in Washington, D.C. Because I'm here to serve you to make sure that you have the resources necessary so that you can address the specific learning needs that you have at the local level. And so that is my pledge to you. But also to the teachers and educators. One of the things I've made a pledge to as I first got into administration, I said I will never forget what it's like to be a classroom teacher. And as your next state school superintendent, I will make that pledge to you as well. I will never forget what it's like to be a classroom teacher. And that's because what I know is that the greatest impact that public education will have on a student learning takes place inside those four walls. And that is my commitment, to make sure that we allow our teachers to do what they need to do best. Take the regulations that, hamper them. Look at this standardized testing that is being driven by